Welcome to Corporate Finance Explained, where we break down the essential topics every corporate finance professional needs to know. This series is narrated by AI, created using CFI's expert training materials, and designed to help you stay ahead in the world of finance. Enjoy this week's deep dive.
Okay, so picture this as a CFO hunched over spreadsheets, dimly lit office, right?
Yeah.
Turns out that image is, well, about as outdated as a floppy disk. The role of the CFO, it's gone through like a total transformation.
It really has.
And for those of you listening out there, with maybe 3 to 8 years under your belt in corporate finance, well, this deep dive is for you. We're going to explore exactly how the CFO role has changed, what it means for, your career path, and the skills you'll need to hone if you have aspirations of becoming a CFO one day right now.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the days of the CFO just being a numbers person, those days are long gone.
Yeah.
They've become like these strategic masterminds.
Yeah.
And they play a key role in shaping the company's whole direction.
It's pretty wild how much it's shifted, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how did we get here? This isn't something that happened overnight.
Not at all. The seeds of this change, they were planted a while back, but we're really seeing the full impact now. There was a McKinsey study, and they highlighted that something like 40% of CFOs, a huge number, they're now responsible for leading digital transformation.
Wow.
So they're leading the charge, driving companies into the future. It's a massive change from what they used to do.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear sign that things are changing.
Yeah.
But what does this actually look like in the real world? Give me an example.
Sure. Think of Amy Hood, the former CFO at Microsoft.
Okay.
She's like the perfect example of this evolution. Under her leadership, Microsoft went through this huge transition.
Okay.
Shifting to, a cloud-first strategy with Azure and Office 365.
Right.
It was a bold move. And her financial leadership was key to making it a success. And, Microsoft's market cap, it went from, get this, $300 billion to over $2.5 trillion during her time there. I mean, that's some serious impact.
That is pretty wild. Talk about a testament to her leadership.
Mm-hmm.
But let's zoom in a bit here. A lot of our listeners, I'm guessing, they're probably working in FP&A right now, financial planning and analysis. How does this whole shift, how does it impact them, their roles, and where they might go in their careers?
So FP&A has become, I would say, absolutely essential to what the modern CFO does.
Okay.
I mean, in the past, it might have been seen as more of a support function, but now it's like the engine driving strategic decisions.
Yeah.
CFOs, they rely heavily on their FP&A teams for accurate forecasting, doing this complex scenario modeling, and basically, getting all these data-driven insights that help them navigate the complexities of the business.
So it's not just about crunching numbers anymore.
Right.
It's about taking those numbers and turning them into something that can be used to make strategic decisions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's take Vaibhav Taneja, Tesla's former CFO. He was the one, who led the financial planning behind Tesla's huge global factory expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine that expansion needed strategic financial foresight, meticulous cost modeling to scale operations, but then also keep them profitable. Tesla's success in, going through that expansion, it just shows how crucial FP&A has become.
That's fascinating, especially given how fast Tesla has grown.
Mm-hmm.
And building a global manufacturing is pretty complicated. So let's say someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, I want to be a CFO one day. What skills do they need to be focusing on? What are the essentials?
So the first thing is, and it's probably the most important thing, aspiring CFOs, they need to be strategic thinkers.
Okay.
It's about moving beyond, just understanding the financial data and learning to connect the data to, the bigger business goals and the company's vision. They need to be able to see the big picture and understand how the financial decisions they make are going to impact the company's overall trajectory.
That makes sense. But strategic thinking, that's kind of a broad idea.
Yeah.
How would you advise someone to actually develop that skill?
Yeah.
In a practical way?
It's all about, constantly asking why. Why are we making this investment? Why are we doing this? How does this decision connect with our long-term strategy? How will this impact, where we stand against our competition? If you can consistently link, financial decisions back to that bigger picture, you'll start to build that strategic thinking muscle.
So it's about seeing finance, not as just a department, but as a way to drive the company's goals.
Yeah.
Okay, what other skills are essential for someone who wants to be a CFO?
Technology is not an option anymore.
Right.
It's essential. Aspiring CFOs need to be fluent in data analytics, automation, even AI.
Wow.
These are the tools that are, shaping how financial decisions are made. And CFOs need to understand how to use them, not just use them, but really leverage them strategically.
Someone aiming for that CFO seat, they can't just be good at finance. They kind of have to be a tech whiz, too.
Absolutely. Imagine you're a CFO and you're looking at a potential acquisition. AI-powered software can analyze tons of data, identify risks and opportunities that, a human team might take weeks to find.
Wow.
This kind of tech advantage, it can make or break a deal.
Yeah.
And it can have a huge impact on how well a company does.
That's a great example. So we've got strategic thinking, we've got tech fluency. What else?
James.
What else is essential for success in this role that is constantly changing?
You have to have strong leadership skills and communication skills.
Okay.
Those are non-negotiable. CFOs, they work hand in hand with CEOs, board members, investors, and they have to be able to explain complex financial stuff in a clear, concise, compelling way to all these different people.
So it's not just about talking numbers. It's about being able to paint a picture with those numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Get people excited about this shared vision.
Makes a lot of sense. Anything else?
Change management, that's another critical
Yeah.
skill. The business world, it's constantly changing, especially with how fast technology is advancing. CFOs need to be good at leading their organizations through these changes, adapting to new business models, new technologies. They're basically financial trailblazers.
So it's not just about keeping things steady. It's about navigating uncharted waters.
Right.
That sounds like a lot. Can you give us an example of a CFO who really embodies all of these qualities?
Yeah, I think Ruth Porat, former CFO of Alphabet, Google's parent company, she was key in shaping Alphabet's investment strategy, focusing on high growth areas like AI and cloud computing. But at the same time, keeping them profitable, she balanced, innovation with financial discipline. That's a key trait for any successful CFO.
That is super impressive. She's clearly, a leader in the field. But for those who are listening maybe early in their careers, it can feel, overwhelming. How do you even start to follow in her footsteps? What are some, tangible steps they can take now to get ready for a potential CFO role?
Be proactive. Look for opportunities to learn new things. Go beyond traditional finance. Don't just limit yourself to, financial reporting roles. See if you can get involved in some FP&A projects. That's where you'll learn to connect financial data to those big strategic decisions.
To raise your hand, volunteer for those projects, get involved in areas that maybe you're not completely comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. Don't wait for those opportunities to just fall into your lap. Go find them. Be a self-starter. Show initiative. That's how you'll gain experience. Build those skills that'll make you stand out.
So it's about creating your own path.
Yes.
What about developing tech fluency? Any advice on that?
Don't be scared of technology.
Okay.
There are tons of resources to help you learn, take online courses, go to workshops, or even just start playing around with different automation tools or, ERP systems. The more comfortable you get with these technologies, the better prepared you'll be for that CFO role.
So familiarize yourself with the tools and, embrace new technologies.
Makes perfect sense. What's one last piece of advice you would give our listeners who are, on this path to becoming a CFO?
Network.
Yeah.
Build relationships.
Okay.
Connect with people from different departments, attend industry events, and, have conversations about where finance is going in the future. These connections, they can give you valuable insights, mentorship, maybe even open up career opportunities.
So it's not just what you know.
Right.
It's who you know and how you connect with them.
Exactly.
This has been incredibly insightful. I think we've covered so much, but this is just the beginning. We've got way more to explore in our deep dive into the world of the evolving CFO, so stick with us.
It's amazing to think about how much the expectations and responsibilities of a CFO have changed,
Yeah.
It's not just about being a financial expert anymore. It's you're a true business leader.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if all of this is specific to, those big corporations, or are these shifts happening everywhere? That is a really good question. And it's something a lot of people don't realize. These trends, they're happening at smaller companies, startups too. In fact, at smaller companies, the CFO, they probably wear even more hats because they just don't have those, those big specialized teams.
Right, because they might be handling everything,
Yeah.
fundraising, investor relations, maybe even product development.
Exactly. So if you are at a smaller company, you might actually have more chances to develop those broader skills we've been talking about. You're probably already part of those strategic decisions and working directly with the CEO. That can be an amazing learning experience.
So whether you're at, a Fortune 500 company or a fast-growing startup, The bottom line is the CFO role is evolving,
Yeah.
and if you can embrace that change, you're going to be the one who thrives.
I completely agree. So we've talked about the big picture, but let's get practical. What can someone who's like a few years into their finance career and they have their sights set on the CFO seat, what are some things they can do right now?
Yeah, let's break it down, give us the tactical advice.
First thing, don't wait for someone to just like hand you these opportunities. Go out and find them yourself. Be proactive, and find ways to like build up your skill set. Go beyond the traditional finance stuff.
So be a go-getter, make things happen, right? Instead of waiting for things to come to you.
Exactly. If you're in, let's say, a financial reporting role right now, see if you can get in on some FP&A projects. That's where you'll start connecting, that financial data to those bigger strategic decisions.
So that's where you learn how to translate those numbers into something that can actually be used, right?
Yeah, exactly. And don't be afraid to like volunteer for those projects that involve new tech or, system implementations.
Yeah.
That's how you'll build that tech fluency we were talking about. Even if it pushes you outside your comfort zone a little bit, those are the experiences that'll like really make you stand out.
So it's not just what you know, it's also like how much you're pushing yourself to learn and grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And here's another tip. Become a master storyteller, but with finances. CFOs need to be able to explain that complicated financial stuff in a way that's clear and concise and easy to understand. From the CEO to the board of directors to investors, everyone needs to understand the story those numbers are telling.
So it's not just crunching the numbers, it's about explaining what they mean
Right.
for the business.
That's it. Practice taking financial data and, turning it into a story that makes people want to take action. Take any chance you get to present your findings, even if it's just to your team at first.
So hone those presentation skills, get comfortable speaking up, and like you said, make sure that your message is super clear.
Got it.
Any other advice for, those future CFOs out there?
Oh, yeah. Remember we were talking about like cross-functional experience? Don't be afraid to like step out of the finance department completely.
I mean, do a lateral move.
It doesn't have to be forever, but think about maybe a rotation or, a short-term assignment in a different department. Could be marketing, operations, product development. Those experiences can be super valuable for someone who wants to be a CFO.
Because it gives you a better understanding of how the entire business works.
Yeah.
And how decisions in those other departments can actually impact the financials.
Right. You build relationships with, important people outside of finance, and you start to connect the dots. You see that big picture of how it all fits together.
So when you do eventually, get to that CFO role, you're ready to lead. Love that.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. Going back to our earlier example, Amy Hood and Microsoft, their whole cloud-first strategy.
Right. Their success with Azure and Office 365.
Exactly. That wouldn't have happened if they didn't have someone who could bridge that gap between the technical side and the financial side.
It's almost like, the CFO is like this conductor bringing all these different parts of the business together. Speaking of those different parts, I'm curious, how much of this applies to, those of us who aren't at those massive corporations like a Microsoft or a Tesla?
That's a great point. And the answer is most of it still applies. Even in smaller companies, you can find ways to stretch yourself and develop those core skills, volunteer for a project, shadow someone in another department, find a mentor who can guide you.
So be resourceful and
Yeah.
find those opportunities wherever you can. And I imagine that, taking that initiative, that really makes you stand out to potential employers, no matter how big the company is.
You got it. It shows you're a self-starter, you're eager to learn, and you're not afraid to take on something new. Those are the qualities that make a great CFO. And you know what? They also make you a great employee in general.
It sounds like no matter where you are in your career, this advice is valuable for anyone who wants to make a bigger impact and be more valuable in their role. It's not just about being a CFO, it's about being a better leader and a more strategic thinker.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that leads perfectly into what we should talk about next. We've talked about tech and data analysis being important, but there's another piece to this that a lot of people miss.
I'm all ears. What is it?
It's the human element. Being able to build relationships, inspire your teams, and communicate well. These are the soft skills that really set apart the good CFOs from the truly great ones.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff, but at the end of the day, business, it's about people. You have to build trust, work together, and create a place where everyone can do their best.
And that's where those soft skills, they become so important. They let you connect with people on a different level. You understand what drives them, and you get them excited about the company's vision.
So it's not just about being good with data. You got to be good with people, too. And I don't think those two things are like mutually exclusive. They probably actually work really well together.
You're right. The best CFOs are those who can combine, that technical knowledge with their people skills. They can analyze the numbers, but also connect with, the people behind the numbers.
So it's about being a well-rounded leader, someone who can deal with all the complexities of business while also like building those strong relationships and making sure there's a positive work environment.
Exactly. And those are the qualities that'll make you stand out, whether you're going for CFO or any other leadership position.
This has been like super insightful. We've covered a lot today, from like those big trends to those specific things you can do to develop your skills and, move your career forward. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with like one last thought-provoking idea.
I like it. What are you thinking?
If you're already working in finance, you're in a great spot to like ride this wave of change. What's important is being proactive, expanding your skill set, and being open to how finance leadership is changing. So I'll leave you with this. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for growth in your current role? Think about it, explore it, and take action. You'll be glad you did.
That is a really powerful question for everyone to consider. It really gets at the heart of what we've been talking about today.
It's about realizing that, growth, it doesn't always follow a straight line. It's about finding those opportunities to learn and grow, even if you're staying in the same role.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's like taking on a new project that shows you a different side of the business, or maybe it's volunteering to, lead a team on something.
Or it could even be something as simple as finding a mentor, someone who can give you advice and insights.
There are so many possibilities, but the key is to be, intentional about how you grow. Don't just sit around and wait for opportunities to come to you. Go out and find them.
Be proactive, make it happen.
That's the mindset that'll set you apart and really help you move up in your career.
We've had a great deep dive today into, what it means to be a CFO now. We talked about how the role is changing, the skills you need, and the practical steps you can take to, prepare for that CFO position.
And we talked about how important those human skills are, those soft skills, like building relationships and being a good leader.
It's clear that the CFO role, it's not just about numbers anymore. It's about vision, strategy, leadership, and really making an impact on the business.
And it's an exciting time to be in finance. There are tons of opportunities out there for those who are, willing to adapt to change, learn new skills, and step up as leaders.
So to all those ambitious finance professionals out there, keep pushing, keep learning, and keep aiming for those goals. You have the power to shape the future of finance.
And don't forget, the journey is just as important as the destination. Embrace the tough times, celebrate the wins, and never stop learning.
Well said. That wraps up our deep dive into the changing world of the CFO. We hope you found it, helpful and inspiring.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Corporate Finance Explained. If you found this episode valuable, be sure to check out more episodes and explore CFI's highly rated courses at corporatefinanceinstitute.com. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into essential finance topics. See you next time.